The Sacramento Kings select Lionel Simmons from LaSalle.
That was a good learning experience for me. Never get away from what works, and I got away from it.
Lionel James L. Train Simmons, born November 14th, 1968. Today's feature in the late 80s, early 90s had one of the smoothest games as an amateur that you just knew would translate well to the NBA. His fundamentals were way past his class in the little things he did that changed potential turnovers to sweet, lengthy teardrops in the lane as he long stride back on defense, emotions never too high or too low. He was a star in high school, but even better in college at LaSalle University, never averaging less than 20 points a game in his 4 seasons, leaving the school top 3 on the NCAA all-time scoring list, now 5th all-time, recently passed by Campbell's Chris Clemons in 2015 and Detroit Mercy's Antoine Davis in 2018. His 3,217 points is one of only 11 players to ever score at least 3,000 points in NCAA men's basketball history. He became a top 10 pick in the 1990 NBA draft by the Sacramento Kings, and in his first few seasons looked like an annual All-Star selection, especially in just his rookie year, which in the end became his best season as a pro, being named first-team All-Rookie. Had it not been for Derek Coleman and his dominant rookie campaign, Simmons was primed to be the Rookie of the Year. Drafted in any other NBA season, and his numbers were sure great enough to do so. Sacramento had found their star. Well, at least they thought. Simmons did put up solid numbers on paper for the next 3 years in stats usually focused on, like a 17 points a game scoring average in the first 4 years, 8 rebounds, 4 assists, and 1.5 steals a game, starting just about every game he played. He was promising individually in that span of his career, but then things all changed for the worse. It's like Lionel Simmons suddenly fell off a cliff. He'd eventually lose his starting spot with the team and never fully regain form, as Sacramento never evolved into a competitive team in his tenure, only making it to 1 playoff first round in 7 years, winning 1 playoff game. In a 95-96 season, Simmons's production mattered little to none. He went from a surefire NBA All-Star prediction after year 1 to 5 years later looking like he never should have been drafted. Then there's the situation he became known for, tendinitis developing in his right wrist and forearm after playing his Game Boy too much. It was in his rookie season, a kid fresh out of college, and only missed 2 games because of it, in a year that turned out to be his best, so no harm, no foul there, except the sheer unorthodoxness of it that was a comical headline for sports writers at the time. He had all the talent and made all the right moves to get to the league, but for these reasons, his growth was stunted. Let's talk about it. It's your boy JC, Stunted Growth. Let's get it, man. Take a minute to like, subscribe, and comment on who I should do next. Lionel Simmons was a 6'7" player listed as a small forward, although he played some power forward as well. He's from the pipeline of Philadelphia basketball that's pumped out guys like Billy Owens, Richard Hamilton, Rasheed Wallace, Will Chamberlain, Earl Monroe, Kobe Bryant, Hank Gathers, and the list goes on. He played for South Philadelphia High School, where by his junior year he was a star, and next down that line of top basketball talent. He won a coveted public league championship as a senior, then decided to attend local LaSalle University after being convinced by his high school coaches that being a star in other places wasn't the same as being a star in your hometown. Not sure their intentions, but it was the best decision Simmons could have made because he went there and became one of the most productive college players ever. By the end of his 4 years, he won every award you could win as a player, including All-American, the AP Player of the Year, the Naismith Award, and the Wooden Award. He was taken 7th overall in the 1990 NBA draft, immediately becoming Sacramento's all-around best player. Stunt number 1, good but not great at anything. Many players on their sports journey never really understand what it can mean to have at least one specialty in your game that can separate you from the pack. Sure, when you're young, talented, and athletic, a player can still become great, but most times players, when met at a level like the NBA, where sheer God-given talent just isn't enough against other equally as talented players, can find it difficult to have success or, like in Lionel's case, be consistent. At 6'7", slightly slender frame, Lionel wasn't exactly a good fit at shooting guard, small forward, or power forward, but he had elements of each in his game that made him somewhat of an in-betweener. He was the ideal height of a shooting guard, a bit small for a small forward, and didn't possess that athleticism, strength, and finishing around the rim ability of a power forward. Not to mention, he didn't have that intimidating demeanor of an enforcing big forward as well. In his rookie season, although he averaged 18 points a game, he took almost 17 shots to get there. His field goal percentage by the end of his rookie year was just 42%, and it didn't get much better, culminating in a 43% career average and just about the same his first 4 prime years. That's around the bottom of the league in top wing players of Lionel's generation, like Chris Mullin, Reggie Miller, Jordan, Pippen, or just about any wing at the time. In fact, Lionel was ranked almost dead last in 2-point field goal percentage of all qualifiers as a rookie, and it pretty much stayed there his entire best years. The problem was he just wasn't fast or quick enough to create easy open shots, and he usually threw up something and rebounded his misses well, or not tall enough or athletic enough, leading to him being among the tops in the league getting his shot blocked. Good motor and demeanor, but never intimidating or overly aggressive, which at his position was to a fault. Yes, he still put up numbers, but that had a lot to do with what's next. Stunt number 2, good on a bad team. Being drafted by the Sacramento Kings, historically one of the worst franchises in NBA history after 1951, gave Simmons all the room to be a player that needed almost just as many attempts as points average to seem like a solid player on paper. Truth of the matter is, on a playoff team, Simmons would be a 10 points a game role player at best because of his limitations on the NBA level, like height, athleticism, finishing inability, non-aggression, and lack of knockdown shooting touch. Like when Mitch Richmond arrived in Simmons' second season and became the team's primary focus on offense. When teams would double and sometimes triple Richmond, he'd kick to Simmons, who usually needed a dribble or few to score. Most times running right back into traffic because he wasn't confident enough to shoot the open shot. Since entering the league, Lionel's jump shot was his biggest question mark, and I think he overthought it, trying to show he, in his mind, was a good shooter. Well, in college he actually was pretty decent, but in the NBA, Simmons regressed pretty much every year as the Kings added more talent. None of it produced wins, as his first 4 years, the team never won at least 30 games. When they finally did and made the playoffs, coincidentally, Lionel had by then lost his starting job. Stunt number 3, his body broke down. Seeing the player Lionel Simmons became from 93-94 to 94-95 lets me know that something greater than him losing his starting position was at play, and it wasn't a Game Boy. No, not this time. Lionel's body, specifically his knees, simply broke down, and almost instantly. The handheld game incident is usually the injury talked about with Simmons, but that was minor compared to the fall off he had in 94-95. Although it isn't well documented, it does state that Simmons developed chronic knee issues that hit him almost instantly and wasn't the result of a freak injury, age, or being driven too hard. Luck would just have it that Simmons' time was just about done. He played 2 more seasons after 95, but was a shell of himself, and Sacramento was still losing. He prematurely retired in 97 at just 28 years old. All in all, Lionel Simmons was decent, but could have used more specialty to his game and may have even been compared to some of the greats. He wasn't blessed physically for his style and never really developed as an amateur because he was always the best player on the floor going to a school like LaSalle. He needed a lot of work, but was still a solid player with a great amateur resume. Salute, much respect, but for these reasons, his growth was stunted. It's your boy JC, Stunted Growth, and I'm out.